Okay, good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, June 4th at 7 p.m., and this is a hearing for the Speedway Board of Zoning Appeals. My name is Tim Ramian. I'm the chairman of the BZA. Attending this evening, to my right is our two members, Robert Hodge and Hayden Flynn, and to my left is the vice chairman, Curtis Miller, and to his left is Steve Jones, our secretary, and to Steve's left is our town attorney, Mr. Ted Nolting. Also in attendance is our recording secretary, Eder Lopez, and Mitch Rector, our staff person from Etica. Eder, have everyone who wished to speak been sworn in? Yes, okay. I ask everyone to please silence your cell phones. And now please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you everyone for attending this evening. I would like to go over the rules. The presenter of the petition, any remonstrators, and any proponents will each have 15 minutes to present their evidence or comments. Following their presentations, we're going to hear a staff report from our representative from Etica. After the staff report, we will allow up to 5 minutes of rebuttal from each petitioner, any remonstrator, and any proponents. So the first item of business this evening is the approval of the meeting minutes from both the March 5th and the April 2nd, 2025 meetings. Does anyone have any changes or corrections?
No.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve both minutes?
Make a motion.
I second that.
Second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. The next item of business is petition number 2025 DVS 004 for 4914 West 15th Street. This was a continued petition from our April meeting. So we are treating this as a new petition again because there were some adjustments made to how the petition was submitted to us. And so for the first item will be for the petitioner or representative to approach the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Chairman Ramian and BZA Board. Bowman Elder, good to see you again. Here at petition for the request of variance of use to allow for construction of a commercial parking lot, D5 district, for the property at 4914 West 15th Street.
Okay, so again, I would ask that you go over the specifics of what you're asking us for on that, in the parking lot, the number of spaces and that type of thing.
So looking to demolish a house that would then have a 15-space parking lot based on setbacks, which we obviously will go through at a later date, but we'd like to have at least 15 spaces that we've looked at per code to create a commercial parking spot for the supplemental for the retail spaces on Main Street.
Okay. And let's see, do any of the members have any questions about the proposal?
Not at this time. Not at this time, I don't.
I would like you to repeat, I think, what you had said at the April meeting. You had mentioned that some of the spaces were going to be earmarked for employees and the rest would be open to the public. Is that, would you go over that, please?
That's the idea. I feel like there's a lot to finalize as we get our plan together as far as how many spaces we can get. We've looked at the code and there's we're planning on putting an opaque fence, so that may reduce the setback. So I think in my mind, it was just a petition to get the variance to allow for commercial space. But we had envisioned the ability to have a few dedicated spaces for the retail use, and then the rest would be open for the town.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions at this time?
Approximately how many square foot is the building on Main Street that this parking lot is supposed to serve? Do you know?
Just under 10,000 feet.
10,000.
Yeah, like 9,400 maybe, just under 10,000 feet.
Okay. And if there's no other questions, then we will go ahead and ask for our, let's see here. Apologize. Any, I don't, okay, you may sit down. I
Great,
don't
thank
have
you very much.
anything. So any people that would like to speak, please approach the podium and state your name and address regarding this proposal, whether you're for it or against it. Okay.
Hi, my name is Janet Fullen, and I reside at 1629 Fisher. I'm having difficulty speaking, so if I can't finish this, I'm going to hand it off to somebody else who can finish it for me, okay? Okay. I just want to reiterate that I'm in the neighborhood association, I'm on the board, but I'm speaking as a citizen. But I want to just say that what they said at the last meeting, so that it's recorded again, briefly. This is my opinion also, that historic districts are supposed to utilize existing resources, and in doing that, this reduces the need for cars because more cars will bring pollution to the neighborhood. It's a negative impact on people that live there. Parking lots also increase the heat island effect, makes the neighborhood hotter, makes the city and town hotter. It adds more traffic noise and congestion and doesn't give any benefit to what is a historic, national historic neighborhood or to any neighborhood for the future, any neighborhood this could happen to. There will also be increased congestion. There's going to be more traffic hazards due to the cars, which is hazardous to pedestrians, in particular children that might be out at play. There's an increase in noise and vehicle emissions, and also this is due to the high traffic turnover of parking lots, especially in an area that has restaurants and shops. People are not necessarily there long term. That'll be a lot of people moving. I'm not sure how many spaces they have earmarked. I wasn't clear on what they were talking about as far as what's allotted for people in the public and for people that are going to be working at the business who might be parking longer. In addition, parkers that shop on Main Street, go to the restaurants, maybe have drinks, can carry their drinks outside. They may linger, have their cars running. There could be loud radios. This would be disruptive to any neighborhood. The increase in lighting that's required is going to be disruptive to residents, and we had a neighbor very eloquently state how this disrupted her family's life. And as a town, I think that we should be making more walkable areas and neighborhoods instead of increasing car traffic in an actual neighborhood. If the town sees challenges in parking, I think they should look at ways to increase parking that doesn't affect a neighborhood. Future investors should also be made aware that the majority of residents in our town, and it's a small town, with roughly 14,000 people living here, they don't support tearing down homes to make parking lots. Most of us realize, and this is just a little piece, that the neighborhood is our own piece of paradise. And art often points out the error of our ways. As Joni Mitchell told us in 1970, they've paved paradise to put up a parking lot. And they took all the trees and put them in a tree museum. And doesn't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? Paved paradise in our parking lot.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, let's hear from everybody supporting from now on, hear from everyone supporting the petition first.
Okay.
And then we'll switch to those opposed afterwards.
Okay. All right. So I don't know if everyone heard, we would ask that as supporters first, any people supporting this proposition for the parking lot to please approach the podium and speak, if you've signed up to speak. Okay. Okay, please state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Doyle. My address is 7952 Inishmore Drive, 46214. I've worked in Speedway for the past 9 years, and I'm also a board member of the Greater Area Speedway Chamber of Commerce. We have submitted the letter, as I just passed out to you, in support of the development, and I'm going to read a summary of that letter.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. The Greater Area Speedway Chamber of Commerce strongly supports Indy Man Speedway LLC's proposal to redevelop 2 vacant Main Street properties and a nearby vacant house. The plan includes new business spaces and a dedicated employee parking lot behind the buildings to ease congestion. The Chamber believes the project will boost local business, revitalize the area, and benefit the community, and urges the Board of Zoning Appeals to approve it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, who else would like to speak in favor of this proposal?
Good evening. My name is Jacob Blaisdell, 6116 West 29th Place. I'm also here in my capacity as the Vice President of the Redevelopment Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. The SRC is very supportive of this project. We see it as an opportunity to really refresh, renew, revitalize this part of our Main Street that's been dormant for a really long time. And so we're looking forward to hopefully seeing this go forward. I think it's appropriate to acknowledge that there's a trade-off here. There's an opportunity cost. I personally wish that this variance weren't needed. I wish people walked further from where they park to where they're trying to go. That would be nice. The reality is that we know that just doesn't tend to happen as much as we would like it to. The developer knows this. The tenants interested in occupying this space know that. Any future developer that we would like to bring in is also going to know that. And so that's just a reality of the situation. And like I said, we're excited about the potential for this project and what it can do for Main Street, and would encourage and urge BZA to move forward and support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Young, 5741 West 18th Street. I, too, am on the Speedway Redevelopment Commission, and I'm here to support Bowman and the initiative that he's got for Main Street. When it comes to my opinion on the matter, I have been on the SRC now for a couple years, and one of the biggest things that I've heard from the town is that we have limited parking for the businesses and to attract businesses on Main Street. And this particular property, as I've come to learn, has kind of really been attached to this commercial space for some time, has passed ownership a few times, I guess. And one of the pieces is that, it's kind of understood that, when you own that piece of property, you can have an opportunity to redevelop it or create a parking lot for the potential businesses that are hopefully going to be coming in and helping revitalize and continue revitalizing our Main Street. And so I'm a big component of it, and then also just as a small business owner myself and as a resident of this town, we have to work in conjunction with businesses. It's not always easy. I know that, everyone has a strong opinion as to, what's the right way, what's the wrong way. But I think listening to Bowman, quite frankly, and I've had an opportunity to listen to kind of some of the plans that he's got for that particular area. He truly wants to help in beautifying and working with the town to try to accomplish an overall benefit for the community. He's also worked with and is working with developers in the past, so this is not something that he's new to. So I think that he'll bring an expertise level for our town to help in showcasing, again, an area that hasn't seen development in many years. I'm for it, both on an individual level and also for an SRC level. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Hi, I'm Ron Fisher. I live at 2518 North Lyndhurst. Thank you, board members, for serving number one. This is not the first time hearing this issue or your last. Churches and Speedway have had to expand their parking as well as businesses. In 1987, I was on the board of Speedway Christian and had to remove several homes for putting in their parking lot and church expansion and playground. And that's on 14th Street. The Methodist Church, St. Christopher's, the Bank at 16th and Lyndhurst all have had to expand and improve their parking lots. The Church of Christ bought and closed the Dairy Queen on 10th Street for additional parking. In the lower level of Speedway Christian Church, the local chapter of Habitat for Humanity was formally organized and has built over 800 homes in the Indianapolis area. The Fuller Center for Housing came out of that Habitat organization locally and has built 35 homes in town and 4 homes in Speedway, of which 3 homes are in the old Speedway neighborhood. We worked with the neighborhood and did a major cleanup along 10th Street with Allison Transmission. This is not the first time housing has had to be removed for parking in the old Speedway neighborhood. In 1996, I and a family member bought Plant 4 of Allison's, and the following year bought Esterline Angus, an Option Electric Steel Casting, Option First Bank and Trust Building, and the old Speedway Savings Loan Property, which we're here tonight about. In 2005, the town organized the Speedway Redevelopment Commission, which I served on the board for 12 years, to bring in many new uses, changes, and upgrading utilities to the town through Main Street. Home values and demand for houses was greatly improved in the area of all the town. All the property east of the alley on the west side of Main Street pays 3% tax, and the properties west of the alley pays 1% or 2% if they're rental properties, or no percent if they're a church or school property. Allison, Lindy, and the 500 property were all located here prior to all of us in the housing in the old Speedway neighborhood. Fisher and Len Trotter laid out and developed the neighborhood as the first workforce housing in Indiana. Currently, there's a need for additional parking for the redevelopment of the west side properties in the 1500 block of Main Street. As late as today, I was sitting at Dawson's by myself. An older lady come up, sit down next to me, and he said, "Do you have any parking in this town?" I said, "Ma'am, there's a meeting about it tonight." Currently, there is need of additional parking for the redevelopment of the west side properties in the 1500 block of Main Street. The new owners have closed on the properties and wanting to upgrade are a longtime Indianapolis family that have contributed greatly to Indianapolis. They built and own the Chamber of Commerce building on North Meridian. Their family elevated the railroad downtown to help the rail service and Union Station to better serve the South Side and Eli Lilly Company. They also are the leadership in the Crown Hill Association, the Arts of Indianapolis, and serve on the 500 Festival Committee. We need to roll out the red carpet to these folks. We don't get these kind of people coming here every day. And thank them for coming to Speedway. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this proposal?
John Reller, 5503 West 16th Street. I care about Speedway, as we all do, and it just seems to me to be an obvious situation where we've got this great commercial area, this wonderful residential area, a commercial alley, and no transition. And to have a developer who is willing to put a fence and a landscape strip in, I don't see how we could not be happier about it. So that's my point of view. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of the proposal? Okay, hearing none or seeing none, who else would like to speak as a remonstrator against the proposal?
Hi, my name is Barb Hillier. I'm 4967 West 12th Street. And what I'd like to do and get on the record is what Indiana Landmarks brought to the table at the last meeting. They were unable to be here tonight. But as he stated, Speedway's most recent comprehensive plan explicitly outlines historic preservation as a goal to preserve historic areas in Speedway, and in specific, preserve the Speedway Historic District. Among the high priority strategies to achieve this goal was to maintain the Historic District designation. A decision to tear down one of the more prominent homes in this district just goes against that goal. 4914 West 15th Street has been designated by the National Park Services as a contributing resource to the Speedway National Historic District, which was listed in 2005. For its significance as an early company town for nearby automotive and manufacturing industries. This house holds a particular importance as one of the only, if not only, true federal revival houses in all of Speedway, where most historic houses are either craftsman bungalows or American Foursquares. Losing this house to a parking lot would eat away at Speedway's unique residential architecture and further divide the residential side from Main Street. That's what, in making your decision, I urge you to consider the negative impacts this petition can have on Speedway's architectural resources and historic residential core. Thank you.
Okay, any other remonstrators?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Charles Bennett, 4934 West 15th Street. Again, I appreciate the chance to remonstrate against the petition for the variance concerning docket number 2025 DVS 004, the variance to permit a permit of off-street parking within a D5 dwelling district. Even though I'm not adjacent to the property, I'm 233 feet west of that. As we've already mentioned, it is a contributing member to the old Speedway City Neighbors Association Historic District as was constructed in 1931. And as a lifelong resident of Speedway and someone who's chosen to reside in the historic district, I believe demolishing houses to place parking lots in a D5 dwelling district will be detrimental to the neighborhood. I've also said for time and time again for the last 20 years in front of the zoning board numerous times and the redevelopment commission, when development's not in compliance with an approved site plan, does not follow a master plan, a ULI plan, or proposed development plan, all the things that our redevelopment commission paid thousands upon thousands of dollars to state and then to follow. If they don't follow those things, then you lose all of the trust that you have in your neighborhood government. You lose all of the trust that you have in working together with people on commissions and boards. I could go through and list all the things that I've been at, but again, to save time, I won't do that. I will quote, though, from the SZ1 zoning that came out in 2009, the pedestrian-oriented SZ1, by the way. It's home to Speedway's historic Main Street, encourages mixed-use office, retail, and residential development, and the mixed uses will help foster a walkable community fostered by for residents and visitors. Also, again, I referenced the ULI, the Urban Land Institute study, which they received rave reviews for in 2008. The panel believes the town should pursue developing a lifestyle in this area and work to facilitate a sense of place unique to Speedway. The district must have a seamless connection with surrounding residential areas, a comfortable ambiance, and plentiful adjacent parking that's ideally a combination of on-street spaces and structured parking. Notice no recommendation to go into the neighborhood or change that. And if we want to go farther back with the people who've served on the redevelopment commission, we could go back to the master plan, and I could quote the master plan where they stated on page 20, they said the location amount of parking needs to be tailored to the activities in the neighborhood without detracting from the neighborhood character. Parking can be distributed in an area to encourage people to walk, to use transit, and increase their interactions. Where off-street parking is provided in a development such as an in-front or parking garage, that will have a profound effect on the functioning and character of the street and the neighborhood. They also go on to talk about how many spaces they're going to add on page 21, the master plan, and all of that. So I'm not sure we need to change zoning to gain more parking. Maybe we need to challenge our town council and our redevelopment commission to rethink the issue. Maybe something like making Main Street one-way south would allow for diagonal parking on both sides. And for example, in front of Dawson's, and State Farm Insurance, and Three Sisters in the Trunk, and Lane Lewis Photography, there's 6 spots. We could go diagonal and get 12. Double it up, no one has to own it, nothing has to come down. And just imagine the amount of parking you could get from 16th to 14th Street. In closing, I would like to thank the board for their time to remonstrate. Your decision on zoning matters affect this town and everyone in it. And most importantly, we have to live with the decisions. I'm truly concerned with the development patterns that will go into place if this project moves forward. I'm also truly concerned for the residential neighborhood and plans and zoning ordinances and studies and everything that we've said that we're going to do. Parking should be provided in a way that will not mar the character of the neighborhood. Now, I don't want to steal anything from the staff report, but I looked at that, and they did quote the comprehensive Wayne Township plan. And the only issue I really have with the staff is they quoted the recommendations as a critical 3 area in the Wayne Township, where they said minimize surface parking lots in the business district while maximizing on-street parking. What they don't say is the very first thing says restrict commercial, village mixed-use land uses to the existing boundary formed by the alley from Lloyd Street to Main Street. And then it also says the town of Speedway, property owners and citizens are encouraged to develop a revitalization plan for Main Street Business District. Such a plan should address new infill development, historic preservation, and new land uses that are compatible with residential areas to the west and light and heavy commercial uses to the east and south. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else would like to present a remonstration against this proposal? Okay, seeing no one, it's time for us to hear from our staff person.
Good evening. My name is Mitch Rector. I'm from Etica Group. Our office is at 8720 Castle Creek Parkway East Drive up in Castleton. I was asked to put together a staff report to help the BZA come to a decision on this variance request. I'm going to begin by saying that I am lightly recommending an approval here with commitments. We'll come to those commitments in a minute, but first I want to just talk about the subject property and the surrounding uses. So the current property is, obviously the house is there. There was a detached garage that was on the property, but that has been removed at some point between the April meeting and now. It's been taken out. It's just a gravel lot in the back. And I've attached pictures in the report that show the current state of the property. So for this variance request for usage of that property to turn it into a commercial parking area, I want to go over a few things. We have, as the gentleman before me had pointed out, the Indianapolis Comprehensive Plan had previously identified Main Street as a critical area, but I do want to point out that this was an archived plan from, I believe, 2006. I neglected to attach it to the report because it was archived. But it did say that there is a need to minimize surface parking lots in the business district while maximizing on-street parking on Main Street. Now, I made several visits out to the site, and I did notice that even at times as early as 10 o'clock in the morning, there were commercial vehicles for the businesses on Main Street parked along 15th Street rather than parking in the Main Street on-street parking. Why that is could be an issue of protection for those vehicles so that they don't get clipped by anything coming down south on Main Street, or just ease of access. But I do want to point out that I've attached some pictures in here showing a van from Dawson's parked directly next to the property in question. Perhaps a commercial parking lot with designated areas for employees could help alleviate from commercial vehicles parking along the Main Street area, or the 15th Street area.
Sorry, Mitch, was that the typical size of these vehicles, or were they larger that you noticed, commercial vehicles?
Well, you can see this is it's the white food truck van.
But was that typical of the ones you saw, or did you see ones that were larger than that parked on the street
Though, that is the typical commercial vehicle that is over there.
that you noticed? Thank you.
For barbecue and bourbon or the taco place next door, they all seem to have a fleet of vehicles that was similar in style to that. So Main Street improvements have been underway since 2010 with the goal of updating commercial activity. The Speedway Comprehensive Plan that was assembled in 2023 outlined a critical path strategy, number 5, as concentrate on economic development efforts related to Main Street and Crawfordsville Road. That's not an intersection, it's referring to those as 2 separate places. Now, looking over some other documents as part of this research, I did come across a covenant term sheet that had been assembled between the Speedway Redevelopment Commission, the Town of Speedway, and Old Speedway City Neighborhood Association that I've attached at the end of the staff report that acknowledged all parties agree that there are parking issues related to further development of the west of Main Street. The Speedway Redevelopment Commission will enter into a covenant with the town and OSCNA to limit further residential property acquisition other than defined in Exhibit A without prior written approval. That Exhibit A is attached at the end of the report. You can see there's a red line that's going down the area that delineates where proposed parking is going to be and where it will not be allowed. You can see this house here is the one on the northeast section that is contained within that Exhibit A boundary. I also want to point out that part of the land use, I have attached the zoning map for the property as well as the surrounding areas that identifies, 4914 is kind of keyholed into the SZ1 district, where even though it's part of the D5, the eastern boundary for that D5 district is going north, and then it stops to move over for this property before coming back in. If you look at the pictures that I had attached, you can see this house is kind of directly against this alley access. There is no current landscape buffer. Now, many people have brought up questions about disturbing the character of the neighborhood and will the possible intrusion of cars create noise and light pollution? And I'm not deaf to that. So I would recommend that this development be required to meet or exceed the landscape buffer that is outlined in section 744-506, where they must comply with either a 15-foot wide natural landscape. I think the geometry of this scenario makes that unlikely to meet, or they can also come up with an opaque wall, fence, or vegetative screen at least 6 feet tall with additional vegetation such as shrubs and trees. I would recommend, if that's pursued, that evergreens be used so that this is a constant shielding. Or if the BZA does not feel that that is going to be substantial enough, ask that the petitioner submit some kind of landscape plan for admin approval if we did want a deeper, stronger buffer to more clearly delineate the commercial area from the residential area. As you can see, the house currently has nothing. The house itself is the barrier. So I want to point out that if there were any future commercial encroachment into the neighborhood, I would not be supportive of that, because this is keyholed in kind of an awkward position between 3 commercial properties, and is kind of acting as the bulwark. It might be wiser to more clearly redefine some kind of barrier along here, give it a landscape feature, give it a fence, hedges, trees, to still protect the neighborhood from any kind of commercial light, noise pollution, but still allow the petition to go through. Are there any other questions?
So to clarify on the covenant with the line, all the properties to the right, the covenant does not apply to, it's all the properties to the left? Is that how I'm to understand that? The SRC and the town agreed that everything to the right of the line was fair game for redevelopment, but everything to the left was not without prior approval?
It appears that is the case. If you go south of this current property, you can see following that line, it comes over to the west and then goes south. Those two properties along, let's see, 14th Street to the north of it and to the south of it. On this exhibit, there is a house there, but that was turned into a parking lot via petition 2017. Yes, I attached it at the previous petitions section.
It was 2017 UVS 004.
Yes. So that one,
14th Street.
2017 UVS 004 and 2021 APP 010. Those both turned those two properties into commercial parking lots. They have landscape buffers, they have fences, they have shrubberies. And they're further to the west than this property. So. Now, I just would like to caution that I was trying to find signatures for this covenant sheet. I was not able to find any. This Town of Speedway minutes only go back to 2018 at the best, and I don't have access to the full records of the town. So, unfortunately, who would have signed this? I'm still trying to decide, or still trying to discover, I should say.
Right, it's not dated or signed.
It's not.
Okay.
This was a scan that was sent to me by the town, but there were difficulties acquiring any more information about that.
Are there other questions from Mitch at this point?
So just, sorry, just to clarify, we're not even sure that this covenant actually exists.
It's possible it doesn't. If it had been scrapped, if it had been approved, I'm still trying to find the minutes that actually reflect that. I think going back, the records become spotty. It appears this is from 2010. If there were assistants trying to locate a decision on that, it would be, I think, immensely helpful. But it was discussed.
Just to clarify, generally a term sheet is kind of entered into before you enter into a covenant, right? To kind of just outline the terms. This is kind of like we're going to agree later, but if we don't have any evidence that the agreement was actually executed, then I wouldn't consider it as binding by any means.
That was my understanding as well.
As binding.
Okay. So, Mitch, you haven't, I'm a little concerned about the word lightly, that you lightly recommend this. We don't have a final, you have not seen a final proposal of what the end result's going to look like for the parking area, right?
That is correct. Based on some back and forth trying to get the petition in order to come to the board, it was discussed by Jim Hannigan that a full site plan would be following. This is just the variance of use. I think the lightly recommend is that we would approve it with final say from admin on a layout and landscaping. That way, if we wanted to apply a stricter landscaping buffer, we could do that. But no, the site plan, from my understanding, that was provided in the petition is more conceptual than it is final.
Okay. So, well, thank you for clarifying that, because that I guess solidifies in my mind that tonight is strictly the variance of use that we're looking at.
Yes.
Approving or not.
And I would not, again, I want to say I would not be in favor of variances of development standards that would reduce buffers or landscaping. I think if anything in this case, we need to probably be a little bit more strict than what is outlined as the minimum in the zoning ordinance, and that's why I'm saying I think an admin approval here would be possibly a way towards that.
Okay. Anything else at this point? No? Okay, thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, then, we will allow 5 minutes for any rebuttals on what has been said so far. So would you like to approach for
Just quick rebuttal is that we're not looking to have a variance based on the standards of the use. It's just a variance of use. So we would follow your lead as far as all the requirements and standards to have that parking. So it's purely just a variance of use. So there wouldn't be any trying to deviate from the standards of what you would require for that space. So that's first and foremost. Thank you.
Okay. Who else would like to speak? Okay. Mr. Bennett?
Again, Charles Bennett, 4934 West 15th Street. Not that I doubt that there was a covenant that was talked about at one time, having gone through the process with the OSCNA and encouraged them not to sign it, because if they did sign it, then you would have to give up those properties. I know the Redevelopment Commission at one time had an acquisition property list of properties that they wanted to acquire as deep as 3 deep to the west of the alley. I do know that in 2009, the town did develop an economic study with a clearly dotted line in which the alley, again, according to the comprehensive plan, was going to form the barrier between the residential area. This is what was put out by the town. This is what was put out and paid for by the town. If you have copies, I'm sorry I didn't bring enough. I can let you look at one with that. I'm also worried too, again, living 233 feet from the property, and quite frankly, having 3 children who park on the street. There is from time to time a Dawson's van out there, no lie. But in this picture, the Barbecue and Bourbon is in the parking lot directly behind Barbecue and Bourbon. It's not on the street on 15th Street. So it's not like there's a commercial vehicle from Barbecue and Bourbon parked on that street, nor have I seen one from Tacos and Tequila on that street. And Dawson's, in my opinion, because they have a great product, have no trouble continuing to get people in their restaurant. But sticking to the parking and the variance, I'm still against it because it's zone D5 dwelling. All the documentation, I can go back and show some minutes and records of meetings past if we want to see those. And maybe next time I'll put a packet together for the board so you have that. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other rebuttals? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask my board members here for a motion. Would you have any other questions for anybody?
Actually, I do have some questions.
Oh.
Regarding, so we've heard testimony in both this meeting and the prior meeting about the concern around nuisance, both in a already in another parking lot and the potential for this one. Is my understanding correct that if someone were to call the cops, who's not the property owner, there's not a whole lot the cops could do? It's really only the property owner that could trespass people out of that parking lot if they are repeatedly loitering and causing a nuisance, if it is a private parking lot?
Well, I can answer what I know first. And then you can tell me afterwards. So I haven't dealt with this issue since I used to represent the police department. And normally what you have to do first is give a notice of trespass to an individual who trespasses, let the cops know that you've done that, and then they will actually respond to you. But otherwise, they're likely not going to do anything for a trespasser directly.
Okay. And in terms of the notice of the trespass, it's only the owner that can ask for that?
That's correct. The owner needs to be the one to issue the notice of trespass.
Is it possible for the owner to allow adjacent property owners and tenants the ability to issue a trespass?
Not if they don't have any interest in the property themselves.
Okay. Okay.
But it's done under an agreement. John Merritt, Town of Speedway Code Enforcement, as well as the building commissioner. It is done under agreement signed before. So the actual owner does a trespass agreement. Once that individual has been given the copy saying that he cannot come back, they come back and even step on the property, they're immediately arrested.
Okay.
So it can be done well in advance. And so you don't have to do it every single time. That's the only thing I wanted to clarify.
Did you have another question?
No.
I don't have any questions.
Steve?
Yes, I do. Chuck, can you come up here, please?
Yes.
Yes, we had some statements from the prior meeting, okay, about lighting and about buffers, okay? So my question to you is do you see something that can happen with lighting or the buffer that would make this any better?
Well, I know they referenced also in the staff report that the house is the only thing there. There were two large trees that were there that
Right.
were older trees that I'm sure probably absorbed some of the noise. But I can tell you, late at night, there is sometimes noise coming from between the alley, between Toland's florist and the building, from crowds emptying out of certain establishments that I can hear in my house. So I don't know what you could do to do that. I know the plans that I saw, I know we're just talking about a variance again, but there's a vinyl fencing. I think I had in one of the plans I saw online that they were going to put up a 6-foot vinyl fence. That's probably not going to do it. But yeah, so I don't know that there's anything that, I know, I mean, I don't, at one time, there was also discussion even to protect the neighborhood that they would just put up like the fences you see along highway, you know, along the alley and totally separate the residential district from the redevelopment. And I'm not for redevelopment. I'm just not for de-development. And so, but yeah, I don't see any way that would, and personally, I know I'm 233 feet away, but my concern is it's going to keep creeping in. Also, too, I mean, I have all the previous parking, I guess, variances that have been granted. This is kind of the mojo: buy the property, tear down the house, say it's vacant, say it can't be used for anything or whatever, and then there's always inaccuracies and things. But again, but yeah, to your direct question, no, sorry.
Well, no, I guess when you were talking about the other fence, that was from previous meetings or discussions.
I think unless I read incorrectly, I saw in here, because I've got there was a actual diagram of the parking lot, which I didn't see any handicap spaces marked, but I was going to save that for another day. And then there was a picture of the vinyl fencing. Maybe I didn't make a copy of it. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, in the same report.
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah, nothing with the wall, nothing with the, yeah, so, and I don't know, again, I might be ignorant, but I don't know if this is a direct site plan, but it's not as detailed as the one that they had before. They did clean up the variance petition this time by typing it up, and there's nothing about Zionsville in there this time either, so.
Okay, maybe it was Ms. Rush that said something about it last time. So maybe I had.
Well, I think the last time they were referring to the parking lots behind Barbecue and Bourbon, where they did build a 4-foot wall, and then they did put a 6-foot.
Right, that was discussed, but I think they were talking about something that was supposed to be done or something, so.
Oh, well, I can tell you from the one behind Barbecue and Bourbon, and I guess I could pull it out of here because I have it in here. when the zoning board voted to grant the variance and then granted that the landscaping would be back, they actually had to follow up 6 months later because the zoning board didn't follow up to make sure that it was met the specifications. And so actually, Big Woods had to go back in and redo all their landscaping, put in different fencing and all that stuff. Again, it's similar to the variances that have been granted by this board over time that I don't know exactly who checks up on it. Even the one that was denied for this property in 2010 said that after, because remember when they did construction on Main Street, they put in temporary parking. It was supposed to be returned to grass. Obviously, that never was on that property. I don't know who was going to enforce it. The board, voted at that time. So, I mean, if this passes, I mean, it'll turn into what it'll turn into, and I have really no faith that someone's going to go by and make sure it's held to those standards. But yeah, I mean, I've got all that too. I'm sorry, Dan.
That's all right.
But
that's all I need.
Okay.
Thank you.
No,
okay, thank you.
thank you.
Maybe it was Debbie that I was directing the question to, so.
Oh, okay. Are there any other comments or questions before we proceed?
I'm just, this one is difficult because I find the buffer behind barbecue and bourbon to be completely inadequate. And without a plan for the landscaping in that buffer, it's difficult because we could just end up with a vinyl fence and a patch of grass because that's what the admin approval is. So at this point, I don't know if anybody has any good ideas because I know for developers, time equals money, but without any sort of site plan, that just makes it difficult. So short of a continuance, again, I don't know if anybody has any other ideas.
I guess I would also like to know about the covenant, if it actually exists, and what it says.
I previously worked for the Redevelopment Commission, and I found this covenant when I worked for them. I don't know where I found it. I think it's when we were moving. And I said at the time, I don't know who this agreement was between. I think it was talked about with people that are no longer here on either the SRC or even the neighborhood association. And because I worked in corporate, for a corporation many years, I made the comment at that time, this is really worth nothing because it's not dated or signed. And it's just, as our attorney said, it's kind of an agreement talked about, and this is a rough draft of it, but it's never been memorialized with signatures or a date on it. So I don't think a real one exists.
Okay.
And I'm not saying this in favor of anything or against anything, but I know enough. I took boxes and boxes of documents, and I had them digitized and scanned and digitized. And when I found this one, I said, wait, he said, we still need to keep this, but it is not. There was nothing else I found when I worked as the administrative assistant for the Redevelopment Commission. So I don't think the covenant really exists.
Okay.
Ron, can you come back up for a second, please? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Do you know who was in charge of the neighborhood association at that time?
Of the association?
Yeah, the neighborhood association. Okay, hold on. Go ahead.
As I recall, it was Chuck, and there was Mrs. Fraser is who we contacted on things.
Okay. Okay. So there's another lady back there that says she knows.
Yes.
I was the secretary.
Okay.
Mr. Brewer was the vice president at that time in 2010.
Okay,
This covenant was discussed, brought to us, and we did not do anything with it upon recommendations from Mr. Bennett and also from Landmarks. So we never signed anything. It never went anywhere but a proposal.
Okay.
okay. That's all I needed. Thank you.
So again, this evening, the purpose of this petition is to vote on a variance of use to approve or deny a variance of use for this site. I guess I am unclear about administrative approval, how that works. If a plan comes later, let's say in a month, with a solid plan for the spaces and landscaping and a fence or whatever, who approves that?
So that's what you can decide. You have the right to issue commitments that the variance of use would only be granted upon fulfillment of those commitments. Okay, and so, for example, the petitioner proposed a buffer. It was a fence, I believe. Staff recommended either a fence or vegetative screen, something like that. If you vote to approve the variance, you would say we approve subject to the following commitments, and outline exactly what it is that you want to see. And the variance would not be effective until those commitments are met. To the second point, the approval of a site plan. Obviously, that's not under the BZA's jurisdiction to approve site plans. That's something that's better left to the administration, whether it's their planning department, town management, whatever. But you can say this variance of use is contingent on the site plan being approved by the town, whoever's in charge of that.
Okay. Any other questions on that?
And just one further clarification. You were voting on the findings of fact to adopt it, and so you will want to get those in the record and read those, if you decide to approve that these are the findings of fact that you have considered, and then vote on those.
And the findings of facts are within this, well, we don't.
He's got
Oh.
findings of fact.
Oh, okay.
Go back one.
Okay, so we do have it here tonight.
And so, Mr. Chair, I would recommend that you actually read these findings of fact, and then you can ask for a motion following that.
Okay.
And then we'll make the motion contingent on whatever commitments you decide.
Okay. So the findings of facts that were submitted for this petition were, number one, this grant will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because the adjoiner does not object to the project with the screening requirement utilizing a 6-foot-tall solid fencing on the west property line between the properties. Number two, the use or value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because the answer is there will be a 5-foot buffer yard with a 6-foot-tall fencing for separation. Number three, the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved, and the condition is not due to the general condition of the neighborhood because the parcel is adjacent to commercial, which needs the parcel for parking. Number four, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance constitutes an unusual and an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought because development in the special use district does not provide enough parking for proposed uses. This additional area is needed for sufficient parking. And the last item on this finding of fact is the grant does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan because it is adjacent to the special use district, which needs support parking. so with that, would any member make a motion?
I do have a question real quick. Regarding parking, sir, you said you were still working out the parking plan, and right now you're kind of thinking about 15 spots. Would you be willing to commit to at least a minimum of 1/3 of the spots being reserved for public parking?
Yeah, do the quick math in my head, I think that makes sense. And also want to state that we would be happy to acquiesce within reason what the town council would recommend as far as that buffer, landscaping, and the fence. We want to be good neighbors. We've been in communication with the adjacent neighbor, tried to appease him as well. He's been very communicative and positive for what we're trying to do. So we'd be more than welcome your advice to have that conversation with the town as far as what that landscaping and buffer would look like.
Okay.
So,
Follow-up question regarding site plan. What would you say would be a reasonable amount of time to provide that for admin approval?
We're obviously using an engineer, Andy Girdham, I believe his name is, and we do want to make sure that we are maximizing that space for as much parking as possible. So with having that opaque fencing, we have learned that you can have a smaller setback. So we want to make sure he looked at that in totality, make sure that there couldn't be a possibility to do more angled parking. My thought is it probably would stay at that 15, and we would grant the ability to do the 1/3 for public parking. But I want to make sure he looks at all the setbacks per code, making sure we have the ability to park as many cars as we possibly could. But yeah, he has to, I think he could do a quick turnaround in a couple weeks on making sure we have the exact plan that you need to review.
so 1/3 is five spots of public parking then, and then 10 for employees.
It wouldn't necessarily just be for employees. We'd want it to be designated just for the retailer use. So whether they want to have an employee park there or have it for customer use, we would think, based on our communication with retailers, they'd want it for customer use. We try to have the employees park elsewhere. We try to increase the ability for the customers to get to the retail space.
Okay. Any other questions while we have them up there?
I don't have any questions.
Anything else, Curtis? Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'll make a motion.
If I'm out of order, I apologize. Is there a chance for us to ask a question of the question that you asked about the 5 dedicated spots? If there's not, then I'm okay with that too.
Shoot.
Go ahead.
How are you going to determine, are you going to mark those 5 spots with signs? If someone's not there to shop, what happens if someone that lives 233 feet down needs 3 extra spots for his sons to park because there's no parking on the street? How are you going to dedicate that those remain specifically for customers or for the town?
It was public parking, not parking reserved.
So you're going to
for
mark it with a
specific-
sign?
I don't know how
Going to do
the town
similar to
would
like
go
you're
about
doing
that.
behind Wilshaw now, or you're going to put up a park? I just don't know. I just want to make sure that I think it's a great idea to
No, I think it's a good
dedicate
question.
parking. But
I
as someone
think
who's
that would
lived in the
be-
district where we tried to go at one time, we tried to even do hanging parking permits. So we'd have residential parking permits, and that went over like the proverbial thing in the punch bowl, which I thought was okay. I'd love to see personally put spaces in front of my house and say resident only, like they do in St. Augustine. That's a way of working around parking. And so, okay, I didn't know how we were gonna mark those or.
I might be able to provide a little detail to that.
Okay.
I think clarification is that we would have spaces that would be dedicated to the retailers that are there occupying the retail space. The remainder would be open to the public. It wouldn't be a space dedicated and marked for public. It's just public space.
But we would, having worked for the town and having dealt with parking issues, I think there would probably be a sign that would say no overnight parking also.
Sure.
Because that's just not where, it's not meant to be overnight parking for anybody,
Welcome
so.
that, yep.
But I'm putting the cart before the horse on that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, was there someone in the audience that was speaking? Did you wish to speak? No. Okay. Well, I ask that you please, we're conducting a meeting here. If you want to speak, go out in the hallway. Are we going to move forward with a vote?
So I will make a motion that we vote to approve petition number 2025-DVS-004 with the following contingencies. That at least 1/3 of the parking spots created in here are open for public use, and that the petitioner will work with the town around signage for those spots. And that before, I guess, construction can begin, that the petitioner will submit a site plan with landscaping in the buffer to include trees at least 6 feet tall for admin approval.
Okay. Can I have a second on that, or?
I was gonna say, does that second contingency, did that work? How I kind of worded it? Does it make sense?
I would clarify, submit a site
Okay.
plan with landscaping with a buffer in compliance with, what was the wording he used here? 744-506B. And you said to include trees at least 6 foot high. Would you say those are evergreen shrubs as recommended?
Yeah, my concern isn't so much the horizontal buffer, it's the vertical screening, so. So I would amend it to what was just stated.
Okay. So is everyone clear on that, what he's amended it to? Okay. And could I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right. Mr. Secretary, will you pass out the ballots? That's an extra? Okay.
Okay, 2025 DVS 004, 3 for, and 2 against.
Okay, so we have three votes in favor and 4 against. Okay, so this,
2 against.
2 against, I
against.
apologize. So this motion passes, and is there any other business to come before the board? Okay, hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:10.